Okay, for the last acoustic lecture here, we're going to go over just a little bit from Chapter 6 in Sensation and Perception. I put those two things up there for you. The song, that hopefully you may or may not have recognized, probably didn't, it was a song I used to like to listen to from the group Genesis. The lead singer, if you're like me in your 50s, the lead singer used to be of Genesis, a guy named Peter Gabriel, who sang a very famous song called Shock the Monkey. Long time ago. This was back in the 80s. Most of you probably have no clue of what I'm talking about, but if there's one person in the class who's in their 50s, they'll be like, I got it there. This guy knows exactly what he's talking about. Phil Collins was the lead singer of Genesis for many years. He was in the Tarzan movie singing some of the lead songs. So this was an old Genesis song, and the reason I put this song on was to kind of illustrate the idea that if you just listen to the acoustics, you can't figure out anything because that's all bottom-up processing. But if I actually put the lyrics in front of you and then you went back, you can use both bottom-up and top-down processing to get information out. And so many times we think that people who process things use both bottom-up and top-down processing. And so that was the example of that. What else do we want to add to this? I think that'll be all from this at this point in time. So that was the idea of bottom-up versus top-down processing, which is on page 192 of your book. The other thing on the bottom of 192 that it talks about, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, we talked about information going up to your brain. The 100 plus 25 actually comes back down into this situation. The idea is that when information goes up to your brain, first you process it, the light comes into your eyes or the sound wave comes into your ear. The second step is called transduction, where the light energy is changed into action potentials. And so transduction actually occurs in your eyes and ears. And if you turn to the back of this chapter, I think they actually show you way at the end. Let's see. Table at the end. We're struggling here a little bit. There it is on page 229. Things that go into vision, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. There are receptors for each of these, rods and cones in your retina for vision, hair cells in your cochlea in the inner ear that transmit acoustic information. This is all part of the world of sensation and perception. How do we have sensations? How do we perceive things? We often talk about sensation, perception, and cognition. First you have sensations, then you have perceptions. If you're wondering what the difference is between a perception and a cognition, little babies many times have lots of perceptions of things, but for adults, if they looked at that, if a little baby looked at that 100 plus 25, they would see that very clearly. They would have perception of that, but they would have no cognitive skills from that. You know what those lines represent, and those lines represent things being added up. You have that from your memory base in cognitive psychology, and you'd be able to do that. Little babies just have sensations and perceptions. So a few other elements from the book to add. If you turn to page 204, they talk about the idea of, what is it here? Page 204, there are things that they've actually found in the brain called feature detectors. They've actually found that there are specific cells in your brain that respond to the features of various letters. So if there was a letter A or a letter K, the line going up and down and the line going across that represent the letter K, that there are neurons that seem to fire to this. So the idea that we have feature detectors in the brain that might detect things at a bottom-up level seems to be part of the process. And Hubel and Wiesel won the Nobel Prize for doing this kind of work, so you may want to add a little bit of information here. And then finally on 208 and 209, the idea of the other visual illusions. This is all part of Gestalt psychology. Gestalt believes that you just can't do bottom-up processing, that the whole many times is not equal to the sum of its parts. If you look at some of the illusions on 208 and 209 and some of the others that I posted, they believe that it's your way of perceiving things, that the whole is very different. So what I'd like you to do is just add a little detail to your outline on what Gestalt psychology is from 208 and 209 and add some information about these grouping principles that map onto that. So hopefully this makes sense, and this is the shortest of the 3 lectures. See if there's anything else I want to add here. No, I think that'll do it. So thank you very much and good luck. Bye-bye.